there is something in you that's screaming to grow, but you're silencing it every single day. You wake up feeling like you're meant for more. You sense it in your bones. But when the moment comes to stretch, to risk, to change, you shrink, you settle, you scope. Why? Because growth is uncomfortable. And somewhere along the line, you started believing that survival is more important than expansion. But let me tell you something. You're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because you're in your own way. And in the next few minutes, you're going to see the truth you've been avoiding. The truth that will either wake you up or keep you asleep for another year. Every living thing is designed to grow. From the smallest seed to the tallest tree, growth is embedded into the blueprint of creation. And just like that seed, you were created with potential, something inside you that was never meant to stay hidden. But here's the truth most people never confront. Potential doesn't fulfill itself. Growth doesn't happen just because time passes. Years go by, but people remain the same, not because they weren't meant to grow, but because they never removed what was blocking them from growing. You may have been taught that growth will come with experience, that with age comes wisdom. But look around. That's not always true. Experience isn't what changes you, reflection does. Time alone doesn't shape character, intentional effort does. Life doesn't automatically make you wiser, it only makes you older. That's why so many people are living the same year 20 times and calling it a life. They're repeating cycles, stuck in the same patterns, held hostage by the same thinking. They have dreams, but never act. They have ideas, but never build. They know they were made for more, but convince themselves to settle for less. Why? Because growth requires decision. Growth demands intentionality. Every day you are either building your future or burying it under distractions, comfort, and excuses. Growth is natural, but you have to give it permission, you have to fight for it, you have to protect it. Because everything around you is pulling you in the opposite direction. Your habits, your environment, even your own thoughts, if left unchecked, will sabotage your growth. You don't drift into greatness, you climb toward it. You dig for it. You labor for it. And that's why so many never grow. They want ease, not evolution. They want success without sacrifice, reward without the refining. Think about the areas of your life where you feel stuck. It's not because growth isn't available, it's because something is in the way. It might be fear. It might be laziness. It might be a belief you picked up as a child that keeps whispering you'll never make it. But whatever it is, it's not stronger than the power that lives inside you. Growth is not about waiting, it's about removing. Removing the noise, removing the lies, removing the addiction to approval, removing the comfort that slowly kills your passion. Growth starts the moment you say enough. Enough with repeating cycles. Enough with playing small. Enough with waiting for perfect conditions. Enough with dimming your light just to fit in. When you choose to grow, you're choosing to leave behind the version of yourself that was based on survival and stepping into the version that was built to thrive. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Growth always is. The soil has to break open for the seed to rise. The shell has to crack for the chick to live. The muscle has to tear to get stronger. That pain isn't punishment. It's proof that something new is trying to emerge. So if you feel that discomfort, don't avoid it. Lean into it. It's your invitation, your signal, your confirmation that you're close. to break through. Because growth doesn't just happen. You have to want it. You have to fight for it. You have to break through every layer that's been holding you back. Most people think the reason they aren't growing is because they lack resources, knowledge, or connections. But in reality, that's rarely the case. The biggest reason people stay stuck is because they are afraid. Afraid to move, afraid to act, afraid to step into the unknown. And the most dangerous part? They don't call it fear, they call it being realistic. They dress it up as wisdom, patience, timing, but underneath it all, it's fear in disguise. It's fear wearing a suit and tie. It's fear acting like it's protecting you when it's actually robbing you. The truth is, fear doesn't shout. It whispers. It hides behind your logic. It convinces you that playing it safe is smart. It tells you that trying something new will only lead to failure, that people will laugh at you, that you'll lose everything if you take the leap, and so you stay where you are. Not because it's fulfilling, but because it's familiar. You choose predictable misery over uncertain possibility. You bury your potential under the false comfort of fear. But what you have to realize is this: fear of risk is not keeping you safe, it's keeping you small. It's not protecting your future, it's postponing it. Every time you say no to a challenge because it's risky, you say no to growth. Every time you avoid a new opportunity because you don't feel ready, you reinforce the belief that you'll never be enough. And over time, this becomes your identity. You start seeing yourself not as someone who's full of power and potential, but as someone who must always play it safe, stay quiet, and remain behind the scenes. But ask yourself this: how long are you going to keep letting fear make your decisions? How many dreams are you going to delay because you're scared to fail? How much of your life are you willing to waste trying to avoid discomfort? You think risk is dangerous, but have you ever considered how dangerous it is to stay the same? Staying where you are might feel safe, but it's the fastest way to kill your growth. It's the slow death of purpose. You lose years, decades, waiting for the fear to go away, waiting for a perfect moment that will never come. Because growth doesn't happen in safe places. It happens in the wilderness. It happens in the unknown. It happens in the unknown. It happens it happens when you do it afraid. Fear will always be there. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to act in spite of it. It's not about feeling confident. It's about deciding that your future matters more than your feelings, that your purpose is worth the discomfort, that your dreams are worth the risk. And here's the irony: what you fear the most is usually the thing that will free you. The very thing you've been avoiding may be the door to your next level. But fear keeps you standing outside, peeking through the window, imagining what life could be like, never realizing that all it takes is one bold step to walk in. The risk you're avoiding might be the very thing that transforms your life, but you'll never know until you try, until you stop letting fear lead and start letting faith guide you. You are not meant to live in fear. You are meant to lead, to build, to rise. But you'll never grow until you choose to risk failure, risk rejection, risk discomfort for the sake of something greater. Because the biggest risk is not losing. The biggest risk is never trying. So take the leap, speak the truth, start the project, say yes, say no, walk away, step up. Whatever you've been afraid to do, do it afraid. That's where your growth begins. Most people underestimate just how much their surroundings are influencing them. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The environment you live in, the people you listen to, the voices you allow into your space. These aren't just background noise. They're sculpting your beliefs, your habits, your self-image. You become what you're around, not suddenly, but slowly, gradually, quietly, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you've adapted to a life that was never meant for you. Your environment is either reinforcing your growth or reinforcing your limitations. It's either pushing you forward or pulling you back. And the most dangerous environments are not loud or toxic, they're passive. Environments where no one challenges you, no one pushes you, no one calls you higher. Places where average is normal and excellence is strange. Where dreaming big makes you weird and playing small makes you wise. That kind of space may feel comfortable, but it's deadly to your potential. You have to understand that nothing great is developed in a climate that doesn't support greatness. Just like a seed can't grow in bad soil, your dreams can't grow in environments that are filled with doubt, distraction, and small-minded thinking. You can't talk about legacy with people who are addicted to survival. You can't develop discipline when you're surrounded by those who glorify laziness. And you can't build a life of purpose if you're constantly absorbing the opinions of people who have never built anything themselves. But here's the hard truth. Some of us stay in the wrong environments because it's easier than facing the discomfort of change. We stay around familiar people, familiar places, and familiar conversations, even when we know they're shrinking us. Even when we feel the tension deep down that this space is not feeding who we're becoming. And so we compromise. We pretend we're okay. We ignore the nudge. And every time we do, we lose a little more of ourselves. Sometimes growth requires separation, not because you're better than others, but because you're responsible for your future. Because you finally realize that staying where you are is costing you more than leaving ever would. You have to protect your energy. You have to curate your circle. You have to choose to be around people who speak life into you, who challenge you to rise, who see your potential and won't let you waste it. It's not just about cutting people off. It's about elevating your standards. It's about choosing books over gossip, choosing mentors over followers, choosing silence and reflection over endless distraction. Because your environment isn't just where you live. It's what you listen to, what you scroll through, what you watch, what you consume every single day. You have to ask yourself, is what I'm exposed to making me stronger, wiser, more focused? Or is it feeding my fears, draining my time, and blinding me from purpose? If you want to grow, you need to move your life into environments that match your vision. Spaces that breathe possibility, conversations that stretch your mind, people who inspire your discipline, not just your dreams. Because growth doesn't happen in a vacuum, it happens in alignment. You rise when you place yourself in atmospheres that demand it. So be honest, is your environment helping you become who you're meant to be? Or is it keeping you who you used to be? Change your environment and you'll change your results. Change your circle and you'll change your mindset. Change what surrounds you and you'll change what grows within you. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to explain your shift. You just have to decide that your future is worth protecting. Because it is. And it always has been. There's a difference between surviving and thriving, and too many people confuse the two. They wake up, go to work, pay the bills, scroll through their phones, and repeat the same pattern tomorrow. On the surface, it looks like responsibility. It looks like stability. But underneath, something is missing. Life feels like a cycle, not a calling. It feels busy, but not full. Functional, but not fulfilling. This is what happens when you start managing life instead of maximizing it. When you treat each day as something to get through instead of something to build with. When the goal becomes comfort and convenience instead of growth and impact, you fall into maintenance mode. You make decisions based on what keeps things running instead of what moves things forward. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop asking the deeper questions. You stop chasing what sets your soul on fire. You stop taking risks that lead to real transformation. It's easy to fall into this trap because society praises it. People will applaud you for being stable, for having a routine, for keeping your head down and doing what's expected. But deep down, you know you were made for more than just meeting deadlines and keeping things afloat. You are made to create, to contribute, to stretch, to make a mark, not just a living. The danger of managing life is that it can look responsible but feel empty. You check all the boxes, but you're not fulfilled. You appear successful, but you're not growing. And it's not because you're incapable, it's because you stopped living on purpose. You stopped being intentional. You started treating life like something to maintain instead of something to multiply. Maximizing life means waking up with a sense of responsibility to your potential. It means not settling for good when great is still possible. It means looking at every resource, your time, your energy, your skills, your opportunities, as something that must be invested, not just spent. It means asking yourself, am I using what I've been given in a way that brings the highest return, not just financially, but spiritually, emotionally, and purposefully? People who maximize life don't need everything to be perfect. They're not waiting for a clear path. They move with clarity about why they're here. They take small steps with great intention. They guard their time. They stay focused on what matters. And most importantly, they don't confuse motion with progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're growing. Just because you're occupied doesn't mean you're living at your highest level. So you have to pause and ask yourself, am I just getting through the day, or am I building something with it? Are my actions today connected to the future I say I want? Or am I just running on autopilot, managing what's urgent while neglecting what's essential? Don't let your life become a to-do list. Don't let your days slip into survival mode. You are not created just to maintain systems. You are created to spark change, to build vision, to walk in purpose. Stop thinking like a manager. Start thinking like a multiplier. You don't need more time, you need more intention with the time you already have. Because at the end of it all, no one remembers how well you managed the routine. They remember the impact you made, the legacy you left, the lives you touched, the example you set. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you stop managing life and start maximizing it. One of the greatest enemies of your growth is not failure, it's comfort. Comfort is seductive. It feels safe. It gives the illusion that everything is fine because nothing is being shaken. But comfort has a dark side. It slowly dulls your ambition. It numbs your desire to reach higher. It convinces you that peace means staying still. And before you know it, you've stopped reaching, stopped learning, stopped stretching. And you've quietly settled for a life that's much smaller than the one you're capable of living. You weren't created to shrink yourself into safety. You were created to expand. But expansion doesn't happen without tension. Growth demands discomfort. It demands that you step outside what's familiar and lean into what's unfamiliar. It requires that you do things you don't feel ready for, that you show up even when you're scared, that you try even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. But most people avoid discomfort like a disease. They see it as a sign that something is wrong, when in reality, it's often the sign that something is being made right. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the process. Every version of you that you admire, every dream that calls to you, every breakthrough you desire, it's all sitting on the other side of discomfort. You will never grow into your full potential while hiding in your comfort zone. You'll never discover what you're truly made of if you keep avoiding the stretch. Because growth is painful, but so is staying stuck. The difference is that one pain leads to transformation, and the other leads to regret. People settle not because they're incapable, but because they're afraid. Afraid to fail, afraid to be judged, afraid to lose what little stability they think they have. And so they build lives that are manageable, not meaningful. They do what's expected, not what's necessary. They choose the predictable over the powerful. But here's the hard truth. If you're not willing to feel the heat, you'll never walk through the fire. And if you don't walk through the fire, you'll never come out refined. You must become a person who stops running from the stretch. You must get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because every time you choose the challenge over the comfort, you expand. Every time you say yes to what scares you and no to what keeps you stagnant, you grow. Every time you resist the urge to retreat and instead lean forward into the unknown, you build the muscle that separates the average from the exceptional. You need to understand this. Comfort is not neutral. It's not a pause. It's a slow decline. It will make you accept a life that looks nothing like your vision. It will convince you to tolerate situations, relationships, and habits that are beneath your calling. It will keep you so busy protecting what you have that you never reach for what's possible. And slowly, silently, you'll wake up one day surrounded by mediocrity and wondering where your fire went. But you still have time. You still have strength. You still have the power to choose the path of growth, even if it's uncomfortable. The discomfort won't last forever, but the result of what it produces in you, discipline, clarity, resilience, confidence, that will carry you into a future that's far more rewarding than the comfort you're currently clinging to. So stop fearing the pain that comes with stretching. Fear the pain of never becoming who you were meant to be. Fear the kind of comfort that robs you of purpose. Fear the version of you that settles because it's easier. Because while everyone else is shrinking to fit into what's easy, you have the chance to rise into what's possible. You were not born to settle. You were not created for comfort. You were built for growth. Built to rise, built to stretch, built to evolve. So choose the stretch, choose the unfamiliar, choose the discomfort that leads to destiny, because the life you want won't come by staying where you are. It only comes by stepping into what you're becoming. There's a trap that many fall into without even realizing it, the illusion of progress. You stay busy, your calendar is full, you're constantly moving, constantly doing, constantly responding to things. And because your life feels packed, you assume you must be growing. But busyness doesn't equal progress. Activity doesn't always mean advancement. Movement isn't the same as momentum. Many people spend years running in circles, mistaking exhaustion for elevation. They confuse effort with effectiveness. They work harder, but not necessarily smarter. They take on more tasks, but see no transformation. They fill their time, but don't fill their life with purpose. It's not that they're lazy. It's that they've never stopped long enough to ask, are the things I'm doing taking me where I really want to go? There's nothing wrong with hard work. But work without direction is wasted energy. Productivity without purpose is just motion without meaning. You can have a packed schedule and still be stagnant. You can be climbing a ladder and not realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. And until you're brave enough to evaluate your direction, not just your speed, you'll continue to be busy but never fulfilled. This confusion starts when we glorify hustle over vision. Society praises being busy. It claps for long hours, constant movement, endless goals. But no one asks the deeper question. Why? Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the outcome you're aiming for? Is your activity aligned with your values, your calling, your legacy? Progress demands clarity. You need to know where you're going, to measure whether your actions are meaningful. Without a clear target, your life becomes reactionary. You say yes to things that sound urgent but aren't important. You get distracted by opportunities that look good but aren't aligned. You keep adding but not advancing. You keep achieving but not evolving. Real progress is intentional. It's not always loud. Sometimes it looks like saying no to good things so you can say yes to the right things. It means stopping long enough to reflect, to pivot, to realign. It requires choosing depth over speed, quality over quantity, vision over validation. One of the hardest things to do is slow down when everyone else is speeding up, but slowing down isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's how you make sure you're not just moving,